All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 22 of the H2O podcast. And I'm excited every time I get a chance to do the interviews because I understand the caliber and the quality of people that I get a chance to interview and then showcase on my platform. So for all of the, I think right now I have about 28 or half a many, maybe 30 subscribers on the YouTube, all but my two faithful or my three faithful that actually listen to these. You're really going to be blessed by the conversation today. And hopefully some of the ENMU Greyhound alumni or whoever can chime in and listen to some of what we're going to talk about. I'm already leaking who our guests will be for today, but like always, let's start with the power breath to bring us present in this moment. No escaping the present. We got to be present so that we can be the best of who we can be. So let's just take it in. God, dog, that just feels so good. Let's do it two more times. Some of you may be asking, why are we taking a breath? Because we are helping to regulate that autonomic nervous system. We are de-escalating the anxiousness, the anxieties, and the stresses so that we can get more into our parasympathetic, our rest and digest. We need balance. So let's take it in one more time. Wonderful. Just in case you do not know anything about this podcast and its mission, I want to read it to you, make it plain Jane. This podcast helps to produce, or the mission for this podcast is to produce content that raises awareness of relevant topics with the intent that healing and optimization is kept at the forefront. My aim is to reduce SAD, which is an acronym for stress, anxiety, and depression, while increasing happy, which is another acronym for health, awareness, positivity, and potentially your best life. Join the wave of these healing streams. This season, I really want to focus on providing a means for people to tell their story the way they want to tell it. My role is to create engaging questions and facilitate a dialogue that enhances the way those stories are being told. In short, this is a health educational platform ranging from physical, emotional, and spiritual topics. Our guest bio for today, I'm calling him Doctor. Dr. Marcus Robinson is a fourth-year medical student at Ross University School of Medicine with current interest to pursue emergency medicine for the match cycle of 2024. And he is going to unpack that for us so that we get clarity on what that is. He says, I am currently living in New York, or he's currently living in New York, and he rotates through local hospitals, including Jamaica Hospital Medical Center. He has an interest in leadership slash mentoring, especially minority students and student athletes. So without further ado, I would like our guest to unveil his screen so that we can see this beautiful man come forth and we get a chance to make this conversation happen. What's going on, Doc?
What's going on, Brother Rod? Roderick Chambers, Brother Rod, aka Brother Rod, man. It's good to have you. Good morning to you, and good morning to the listeners that are gonna tune in. It's good to be here, man. It's been a while. It's been a long time since I've had a chance to interact with you. And I'm glad that technology has advanced to where we can, do this virtually. It makes things, sometimes easier based on people's schedules. But man, I'm excited to be here. Excited for this conversation.
Absolutely. Really. In just a little back history, Marcus and I, or I'm going to call you Doc, but would it be appropriate for me to say Dr. Robinson?
It's whatever you want. I'm not one of those who hey, call me doctor only. No. It's whatever you feel comfortable with.
All right, I'm going to do that out of respect, and I want people to know who you are, know your credentials. So, the medical Dr. Robinson, we were just having a brief conversation. We have not actually spoken over 10 years, and the first time that we talked was right before, in terms of verbally seeing each other, We have not talked in over 10 years. And it's just so crazy because when you vibe, you connect, you connect. And seeing the great things that he's doing, man, it's just, I saw his material, his content passing through my IG, and I'm just like, this is a no-brainer. I got to have him on the podcast so we can chop it up. Seeing that he's a fourth year medical student, all the time that I've known him, I knew that he was in pre-med in his undergrad years, and I knew that he was pursuing medicine afterwards. So I've known him to be a part of the medical community since I've known him. And so that really, really is going to make for some interesting conversation as we go forth. And so we had a smidget of a time to talk about just some of our time in the world national city of Portales, New Mexico.
World-renowned.
World-renowned. And if you don't know what Portales is, shame on you and your mama too. So, but before we go into some of the more narrow questions for this brother, I always like to start off with a few rapid fire questions. The guests never know what I'm going to ask them. It's always safe and it's always fun, but it does put them in the hot seat, and well, my intent is to make you a little uncomfortable. So, first question is, what was the last thing that you ate, and can you name 3 nutritional values that it provided you? What was the last thing you ate, and can you name at least 3 nutritional values that it provided you?
Oh man, the last thing I ate was this morning. I had a glass of orange juice. All right, so I had to get my vitamin C in, and then vitamin C and calcium. And I had like this little pastry bar. It was 100 calories. I just wanted to get something real quick in. So as far as like the nutritional value, it's not normally something that I would eat because I'm actually in Dallas right now. I fly back to New York tomorrow, so usually my mornings consist of me, doing a smoothie real quick, putting some protein in it, and then, going about my day, with, bananas and peanut butter. So I don't have that here with me. So I just had to quickly get whatever my mom had in the cabinet. So as far as it like being value, it was more so just like, let me just get something in my system and keep on going.
Respect. And we're not going to challenge or judge you this time. Most impactful thing that you listened to or done within the last 24 hours. Again, what was the most impactful thing you listened to or you've done within the last 24 hours?
The most impactful thing that I've done or listened to was yesterday. Actually, I went and visited my grandmother. She's in her 80s, and just sitting there, just listening to her just talk. I just it's always good to listen to the elderly. Get some just wisdom, from them. And it can be about anything. We were just talking about the Cowboys and how, it makes them nervous, and it was just, just random things. She'll talk about, she'll talk about being from home. She's from a small town in Texas down by Waco. She'll, talk about that, and just listening and just having that moment of bonding time, because I don't get to see her often. So I think it's pretty good to have that time.
What town from Waco?
Oh, they're from Marlin.
Roseback?
No, they're from Marlin.
Marlin, okay.
Yeah, a little bit outside of, like 20, 30 minutes outside of.
Outside of where?
I think it's I think you take Highway 6 to get there. I think I can't remember exactly, but but Marlin is a little bit. Marlin and Riesel. No, you know what? They're from Riesel. Sorry, they're from Riesel.
Okay. And now, but your father. Now, this was your father's mother or your mother's?
Yeah,
mother?
This is my father's mother. Yeah, they're from Riesel.
Wow. Well, and the reason why I ask is because my family are Robinsons. Well, my stepdad, of course, and my siblings, they're Robinsons, and they're from the Waco area. So I'm like, wait, what?
What's the funny thing about the Robinson thing, and I never knew this, is that my great grandfather, rest in peace, when he was alive, he actually changed the name. He changed his last name from Smith to Robinson. So like, for as far as like, whenever I'm trying to do like this whole DNA thing, it messes it up for me because the Robinson name was just pulled out of air by him, and I think it was Smith, but I mean I don't know exactly because I can't find any information on anyone with that last name, so it kind of makes it a little troublesome sometimes. So I have no idea where he pulled it from. He just got it from somewhere. He was like, hey, Robinson, I like that last name. That's what our family name's going to be. And there we go. So it's kind of
Wow, there's a lot of similarities in their story. I don't know, and that was sending me off in a tangent. So we're okay.
Okay.
Good grandmother, wonderful. Talk about Cowboys and the plethora of other things that could be talked about. Getting that wonderful wisdom from our elderly. What was the first thought that fed your soul this morning? What was the first thought that fed your soul this morning?
The first thought that feeds my soul every morning, is me waking up. Because I usually try to wake up when I'm not going to the hospital. I usually try to wake up without an alarm. So just let that morning sunlight just hit my face, pineal gland and all that stuff. So usually first thing I do is usually just I pray. So that's usually my first thought in the morning time is a quick prayer, and then figure out what time it is, figure out how many messages I have, and I'm like, okay, all right, we can go.
And last thing is, last unusual thing a patient told you. What was the last unusual thing a patient has told you?
Oof, the last unusual thing that a patient told me. Wow, so many different stories.
It's like the catalog is just going.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay. The last unusual thing. I thought something was unusual. I'll make it simple. I would say, last unusual thing was I had a patient who she thought she was taking her blood pressure medications every day, but she actually was taking her cholesterol medications, thinking that they were the blood pressure. Yeah, so her blood pressure was sky high, and we were just like, "Are you taking it?" Like, so like, and the funny thing is that I can go off on a tangent and on that as well, just because of medication compliance and making sure that you're taking the right medications. But that I thought was unusual. I was like, "Whoa, hold up, what's going on here?" So yeah.
Jeez, that got real quick.
Hey, listen, you told me to find something. I'm like, hold on. Okay, that was
Okay, well, on that note, we've come to the point where we are already somewhat introducing who you are. And that's why I really do those questions instead of just asking, who you are straight up front. I want people to be introduced to the variety of who you are. And I'm going to narrow that down a little bit more and just simply ask you, who is Marcus Robinson, the person, beyond the titles and whatnot, the education? This is really coming to that Socratic philosophical question: who are you, and what makes you you?
Yeah, definitely a loaded question for sure, but
Yeah,
a good one. It is a good one. I would say, who I am at the core of who I am, the base, as I would say, that we share, because we grew up in the same football program, so that base, we all remember the base, the belief, accountability, selflessness, enthusiasm. We all, and I still go by that creed to this day. But if I had to strip it down even more, just peel back a little bit more layers, I would say that, at the core of who I am, is my faith first, and that's where I start everything from. I pretty much I build my relationship with God from there, and then anything else after that, is it stems from that, and so I'm not saying I'm the most devout Bible thumper in the world. No, I'm not talking about it from that perspective. I'm just saying, let's like from this personal relationship that you have, with whatever you believe in. There's different names for God and different, religions, different denominations. Even if you don't believe, whatever, it's whatever. But who I am, it stems from that. And then there's a lot of different avenues, that we take, because it's like, hey, you're a person that that's honest. Are you a person, that's professional? Are you a person who cares? Are you a person that holds the door, for everyone that's walking out? Do you have the time? Do you have the patience? What's your body language like? Are you inciting, energy in other people's, or are you being, this rigid, neurotic person that's just a bad vibe for a work environment? And those are things that, that I try to work on. I'm someone who I make sure that my, what I'm saying or what I'm doing, how does it come off? I'm always trying to, spread some kind of, positive energy to people, because I believe in the power of positivity, because it's a lot, but you're remembered better, whenever you have like that charismatic, energy. You know, you walk into a room, you walk into, you know, somewhere and you're introducing yourself, you know, and you're talking to people and you're just like, man, like who is that guy? Like, he's really good with patients, or like he really has a great rapport, you know, with people, you know, and I think that's something that that I pride myself on. I pride myself on being able to establish social. I pride myself on like just having this intelligence for social interaction with people.
Mm.
I'm definitely one of those. Yeah, there we go. So I'm definitely one of those types that if we're walking down a hallway, everyone has had this experience when you're walking down a hallway and then you and one other person and you see them, they're 40 yards away, and in that moment you have this opportunity, you have this decision to make. Am I going to continue to keep my head down? Am I going to look around, or am I going to stare this person in the, you know, in the eye and say, hey, good morning, good afternoon, how are you doing, whatever. When I'm walking around the hospital, I say hello to everyone. Doesn't matter who it is, from housekeeping to people I don't even know who they are. I mean, they could be, you know, in the hospital without a badge. I don't know, but I'm saying hello to them anyway. So that's who I am. You know, I'm someone who, you know, I mean, I don't know. So I guess people say it's extra friendly, but I just like interacting with people because I don't know if my interaction with you that day, you know, it could have made your day. You know, hey,
Sure.
that little smile, like no matter, you could have been going through something. And I have no idea, but at the end of the day, I'm doing this. It's gonna make you smile, and hopefully that feeling that you had between our, you know, with our interaction, you know, saved the day for you in some way, shape, or form.
Beautifully said, man. And there's so much in that I even want to just follow up. I'm gonna make a few quick statements now. I'm gonna move on because I will, you know, I'm talkative and I can go there. But you know, one of the things that you said that I think is so powerful and it's simple, it's in your hello. And this was the analogy that I had when I was working at a school. One particular morning, I was doing door duty, and generally, I like to be nice. I like to be, you know, upbeat, happy. That's just my character, part of my character. And this thought came to mind. I thought about dolphins and I thought about whales and how they communicate underwater, and they send
Yeah,
out that sonar blast, right? And the way they're able to pick up or determine different things around them is what comes back to them, if I'm understanding the science correctly. And I thought that that was the same way that our hello does in the morning when we speak to people. We
hmm
send out a certain kind of vibration, and based on what we get back, help us to better assess the people that we're dealing with.
hmm
And I made it a point to speak to everybody who walked through my door. And I know some of them were like, why he got to say good morning? Why he got to say to me, hey, how you doing? Hey, hit my fist. Hey, okay, I see you gonna walk right past me, roll your eyes. That's okay. Good morning to you too. Some teachers, I mean, there was you could see that there was a shift that was happening. And some people, if I got that sense they were not receptive for that, hey, give them their distance, give them their space. I'm seeing some of the situations that they're walking out of when they get out their parents' car. You know what? Maybe what I say will hit them later on today, and it will raise that vibration. But what I noticed in being consistent with that is that in the times where I got tired of saying hello, I will get about 3 or 4 or 5 other students that would give that back to me, and it, boom, shot me back up. So
yeah,
what you send out is what you're going to get back, and I guess that's the law of attraction or
yeah,
positivity, perhaps,
yep.
is that what you're putting out there is going to come back to you. And I'm gonna circle back around to the question this way and ask you, how has you knowing that about yourself impacted the way that you do your job? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and it definitely impacts you in certain ways because it's something. This also is something that I work on as well, and it's something that I have to be you know, cognizant of when I'm walking into a room with a patient, and it's something where, you know, because I like to use humor a lot via conversation, you know, just to make people feel comfortable.
No,
And
not the
so
good doctor
not,
doesn't
not
use
not not the
humor.
good doctor, right? Yeah. So and sometimes, you know, some people aren't as receptive to it. You know, I had a gentleman a few weeks ago. You know, he was having a bad morning. You know, and I walk into the room and I'm like, hey, Robinson, whatever. I'm on the team this week. I'm going to be seeing you. And he was just, you know, just having a bad morning. Didn't really want to talk to me. And I tried to, break the ice with a little joke. He wasn't having it. And he was not, he wasn't having it. I was just like, okay, all right. Well, let's just get down to what brings you here, And so sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't work. And it's really unfortunate. Again, people go through different things and we have no idea, what could be bothering it. It could be something as simple as, I had a flat tire and, that kind of messed things up for me this morning. Whatever the reason is. So those are things that I have to be aware of just for myself, because it's like, hey, know when to have this serious conversation, know when, just to dial it back a little bit. But as far as me telling people good morning, listen, in New York City or not, I don't care where I am. I'm going to tell people good morning. People are going to look at me weird. That was my initial reaction, like, to people in New York. Like, I would say, hey, have a good day, get out the elevator. They would turn around and look at me like, who is this clown?
Right.
Yeah, and people started noticing it. They were just like, hey, you must not be from here. I'm like, nope, sure I'm not, from Texas. So they were like, well, don't stop doing it. I'm like, I'm not. Trust me, I'm going to tell people, have a good day. I don't care. Like, it's really not that difficult. Like, yes, we sit here on our phones pretending to be busy, pretending to text so that we don't have to interact with other people. Like I say it all the time. But you get out the elevator, I'm gonna say something, and and I mean it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Like, I truly mean, hey, like, have a good day. I want to see everybody, succeed. I want to see everybody happy. So, there we go.
Awesome, man. And my mind goes back to you and my brother Reggie Ellis. If you're talking about getting some laughs, all I have to do is look at y'all. Sometimes y'all drive me nuts. I'm like, what they laughing at? God, does my pad stink or what's going on? But boy, we had brother Reggie, man. Oh my God, I ain't talked to him in years. But I'll tell you, man, we got stories, and I know you guys got stories because y'all went to the same high school too. So the fact that you're just laughing lets me know you're thinking about at least 10 things. And like that story. But, okay, all right. This kind of goes back to what you just said, kind of, sort of. I'm going to ask it anyway. What's your why, and why did you choose your why? What's your why in life?
My why in life, my why in life, as far as why in medicine, I'm motivated by so many different things. So many different things motivate me. And if it's like, why, like, someone asked me, hey, why did you want to become a doctor? And it's a cliche answer of, well, I want to help people. But then someone presented the alternative, hypothesis for me, like, okay, well, you could have, been a teacher or firefighter, professor, and help people. And I said, oh, wow, well, you're actually correct. So it made me kind of think a little bit on, why I wanted, to become, a physician. But again, it's not just one thing. It's so many different things. There's a prestige that comes with it. There's respect that comes with it. There's the financial security that comes with it. It opens the door for so many different avenues in life. It's almost like a means to an end. And so when I'm trying to, understand my why, I think, and I guess I should say, I believe it's to influence others, and it's to be a motivating, like it's like motivating pole, or for a flagpole for other people to say, hey, you know what, this guy was able to do it, and he didn't do it in the traditional sense. I mean, I'm a little older, in medical school, and so for those who are thinking about going into like a second career, and you've always wanted to go into whatever, you are able to do it. You just have to, take the time and the dedication, to get there. And so again, I believe that my why is to motivate people, especially those around me, my loved ones, those who would be willing to listen. I mean, I've seen a change now. I mean, we just finished Thanksgiving, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here I am with family, and I'm doing free consults, at the dinner table with people who are asking me, hey, can you read through my labs? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? Do I need to go see my doctor for this? And man, it's great. It's wonderful, because it's wonderful, because then also at the same time, and this probably can go into another question that you may have, is that the numbers for African American men in medicine are not high. You know, I think a few years ago, there were more African American male doctors in the 70s than there were like in 2014, 2015.
Get out of here.
Yeah, which is, I mean, and there's so many different reasons on why,
Sure.
you know, that downtrended over the years. I mean, you know, the instant gratification isn't there. You know, it takes a while. You know, it takes a lot. I mean, school is expensive. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say how much debt I'm in, but medical school is very expensive. And, you know, sometimes that amount, you know, it kind of deters people from wanting to pursue medicine. But yeah, I mean, you know, again, just to answer the question, I just think that it's to help those close to me, you know, to become a familiar face for those who look like us, and to, when they walk into, you know, the hospital, they're sitting in the room, they're anxious, they're vulnerable, they're sick, and to walk in and see a familiar face, I'm sure it probably provides a little bit of comfort,
Oh, no doubt.
you know, for them during that time. And so maybe that's why. I'm still trying to figure it out. Maybe that's why.
Well, if you will allow for me to,
Yeah.
I come from teenage parents, and the statistics. I was just sharing this with a group on Sunday that I was invited to speak on. But the older that I get, and I realize the dynamic and the condition that I was in and that we were in as a unit, and to see the odds being against us as being, you know, you got young parents, you know, they're trying to figure it out, kids raising kids. If my memory serves me correctly, was that a similar experience with you? Did you come from teenage parents?
I actually did. Yeah, it was just the same for me. My parents, they were teenagers, 17, you know, similar. You know, I think a lot of people, you know, have, you know, that same experience. And what it does, it builds what it does, and trust me, I'm so thankful, you know, for my parents, for them being the age that they are now, because I feel like we have such an amazing bond, even at this, you know, at this stage of my life. I actually feel like I'm more the parent than anything. I'm like, I'm more the parent, like, hey, you listen to me, you shouldn't be doing this. Yes. And so there are a lot of challenges that go into it. I mean, because it's a lot of, you know, uncertainty. You know, you're a teenager. I can't imagine, like right now. I mean, I'm 35. I couldn't imagine having, you know, an 18-year-old right now. I couldn't. You know, yeah.
My
I mean, I
do it every year, and I'm like, at this age, my mom had, you know, they had this many kids, and we were this age. Like, I'm 39, and I don't have any kids right now. And I'm just thinking, right now, I would be a grandparent, darn near grandparent.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. And I think we have a few teammates who have teenagers right now who are, you know, thinking about, you know, starting college soon. And I'm just like, man, it's wonderful and it's awesome. At the same time, it's scary to, like, oh my gosh, life is just, I remember, you know, like, you remember, you know, we were in college, like they were just born, you know, they were children. They were 4 or 5 years old. Now here they are about to graduate high school, go to college, and they're literally the same age of what, you know, where I met, you know, a lot of you. And it's like, wow, it's just wow. And it's absolutely, it's great. It's a blessing for them though, seriously.
It is. But I mentioned that only to say this, that when I look at the route that you are pursuing in the medical field, which it's generally known that it's one of the most challenging industries, not only to get into, but to study, to achieve all of those great things. And you are a living testimony of, it doesn't matter the background, and nor am I saying that everybody's situation is the same, because it's not. And I'm not going to put that out there for somebody who may have come from those conditions and may not have achieved the same level of success, if you will, that now, you know, shame on them. But I mention that because I think that maybe somewhere in the subconscious and your unconscious, that in some way is a motivating factor, that drive that it takes to keep pushing, even when all odds have been against you. You have made a decision to keep moving forward. And I think that's important to mention.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Seriously, I didn't. You know, it's funny. I never thought about it like that. And that's another. Again, it's another rock to unturn and to discover exactly. I mean, that's what life is, right? We're always constantly unturning rocks to see exactly, hey, what's under there. What can we discover about ourselves? And it's learning and evolving. So I appreciate that. Seriously.
Oh man, likewise.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this: what does healing to optimization mean to you? I mean, you talked about kind of your own journey. You've talked about some of the things that you've done. I think it's incredible that your family members were coming up to you and ask you to help them to read labs. You know that I love that. When you think about healing to optimization, what does that mean to you? What has that meant to you?
So it really depends. You know, every patient, every person is different. You know, some people have chronic diseases, some people don't. Some people smoke for 50 years and never get lung cancer. Some people smoke for 5 years and end up with lung cancer, you know, and there's genetic factors that go into a lot of these things, you know, breast cancer, colon cancer, you know, colon cancer is a big one, you know, prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, all the different cancers that are out there. And not just cancer, you know, other things too, like diabetes, hypertension, you know, high cholesterol. And so it's to me, it's specific per person that's, you know, being managed with these particular diseases, chronic diseases, as we say. And, you know, if you're just thinking about it therapeutically, you know, for someone who has diabetes, you know, you want their A1C, which is testing, you know, their hemoglobin A1C is testing how compliant they have been with their medications for the last 3 months. And so, you know, we as providers, we have a target goal that we set for people who are diabetic. We don't want it too low because in the places it doesn't have any benefit. If it's too low, you don't want it too high because then you can have, you know, other systems in your body that are affected, like your eyes and your kidneys. And then once a kidney shut down, like you're not in a good position. That's not good. And so I think the main thing as far as like chronic diseases, you want to just make sure that we are reaching those like those therapeutic goals. And that's how the optimization is there. And as far as people who are healthy, then it's from a preventative medicine standpoint. And it's making sure that, you know, like you're exercising and that you're eating right and that you're going, you know, getting a colonoscopy at certain ages. You know, for women, you're getting your mammogram, you're following up and getting, you know, your pap smear done, you know, every few years. And it's the main thing is just, hey, we all want to live as long as we can. We don't want, you know, I mean, we want to live as long as we can and healthy. We want to live as long and healthy as we can. And to me, that's the main thing is making sure that we are being proactive with our preventative healthcare measures.
You mentioned something that triggered a many points, but one in particular, and that was the comparison between Western and Eastern medicine. Mm-hmm. And you talked about being preventative, and that that will send me on a very different aspect. But I do want to know your thoughts about that, especially in lieu of where we are still dealing with COVID and the trial strands of everything that's happening right now. When it concerns being preventative, well, first let me zoom out. What's your thoughts about the comparison between Western and Eastern medicine?
Well, I'm completely biased, of course.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, completely biased, and you know, I know that the health, Western medicine healthcare system here in America is absolutely okay. I'm not gonna say too much, but it has its weaknesses.
Too much. I'll say it for you. Expensive. Too much.
It has profound weaknesses. Sure. That can be corrected. I think President Obama, with him passing the Affordable Care Act, he attempted, to help out, and because a lot of people were uninsured, and now more people are insured than have been uninsured, and that's great. However, these prices, healthcare is expensive. I actually got a bill the other day for going to get my I went to an urgent care to get flu shot. I didn't realize that they were going to charge my insurance. I thought it was free. Honestly, I should have waited and got it at the hospital, but like for some reason I just went. I was literally just walking home and I stopped in and I just got a bill. And I'm like, why did y'all charge me this much money? I thought it was free. What are you doing? So yeah, it's I mean, people, it's driven by, it's driven by dollars, and I don't think, I don't think Eastern medicine has that centralized, greed aspect of it, because it's more of the, hey, let me get these, these natural remedies in you. Let me, go and carve up a tree outside that we've been doing for thousands of centuries, and it's going to help you, heal whatever it is that you have, and I think there are, advantages and disadvantages of both. I think a lot of it does have to do with, the society, and the geographic location of where you are. Because I mean, yeah, you could look at, some remote island, off of the coast of India and see how they, treat, different diseases or whatever, and then compare that to how it is in the United States, and it's completely different. I mean, just from the moment that we're born, it's completely different. Like the moment we're born, we're vaccinated. Other countries, they come here, they have to get vaccinated. They don't have the options to vaccinate. And a lot of that, first world versus third world versus developing countries, just the healthcare is a lot different. But I would say that the common theme of countries across the world is people who live in small towns, in rural communities, pretty much have the same issue where they have a lack of access and the quality isn't as good, no matter if it's Western or Eastern.
Okay, well, and you're right. You're absolutely right about, at least in the, you may not have known, I lived in China. I've done some work in Europe for a short period, but it's so funny. We can go into politics really heavy. I'm going to avoid making this just a political game, but I realized something whenever I went to China, and I realized the conversations that they were having about the Western world and the United States in particular. And there was this belief that the quality of our food was better, that the medical industry was better. And in some cases, maybe it is. But then, of course, in the States, we have this perception, China, they got the best of this product and the best of this. And you realize there's a disparity in information. There's a mixed messaging that's being formed, and there's just a lot of misunderstanding about where we as a people really, how we participate in our own health, and how others are also participating in their own health, and who has better systems and whatnot. And so, not to confuse that too much, I will say that I do concur with some of the points that you pulled up about here in the West, that access is very, very challenging for many people. And it's one of those, as you said, profoundly, I don't know how you said, I'm just gonna say it's profoundly broken, and we need to reevaluate that. And I am in support of universal care. And I've understood, and I've talked to our brother Fide. They gave me a better understanding about how the pricing and those kind of things work. But it's been some years, but he's given me a better insight about how all the insurance parts work, and how that corresponds with doctors and pay and those kind of things. And after that conversation, I left with a better understanding, but I also left with the greater understanding for the need of a better system. So I'll leave that right there. And just so I can be clear about Western medicine and Eastern medicine, Western medicine refers to a system where medical professionals utilize medical treatments to treat symptoms of diseases. Eastern medicine refers to non-conventional treatments that focus on the person rather than just the symptoms. And so for those who may not be well-versed to know what those differences are, that's what that is. And I want to make this quick point before we go to our next question, and that was the importance of someone like yourself, or just someone in the family, having some health awareness, health knowledge, and the shift of a trajectory that can change just by having access to someone who can, for one, interpret labs or give information about what would be leveraging nutrition points or leveraging foods that can help to avert some of the health disparities that we're dealing with in our community. How important I found that to be. I'm not a medical doctor, but I've worked in the medical arena just for the last couple of years, licensed massage therapist, nutritional coaching, those kind of things. And I put on workshops, and just to see the range of people, old and young, who are very curious about how to use food in particular to really up-level how they live and how to feel better. And then, of course, being athletes, we understand that dynamic of physical health and the importance of taking care of the body in that way.
Absolutely.
There's a point I want to come back to that. I'm going to say this and then come back to our questions. So on that note of us always focusing on our physical bodies, my truth and my honesty was, even throughout my college career, I didn't really know much about nutrition, even though we had maybe some little packets and things like that. For the most part, the running theme in my head was, you're a football player or you're an athlete, you can eat and pretty much do whatever you want because you got the superior body that's going to shed off all of everything and you're going to be okay. Was that your experience, and what has kind of been that process of perhaps releasing some of those falsities, for lack of a better word? Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. It's funny because when you mentioned Reggie earlier, that was, we were roommates, and so, and he played D-line, so he's a little bigger than I was. I played running back, so I had to be a certain size. He was bigger, so. Not saying I ate like him, no, but I did eat a lot. I did eat a lot. I used to, my poison in undergrad playing ball was the big Minute Maid, the gallon, the fruit punch, berry punch, tropical punch, whatever. They were huge. They were the gallon ones. Go to Walmart and buy them. That was me. It was either that or any juice soda with sugar. So that was something that I was drinking like 3 a day or something. It was a lot. I could.
Well, that was like McDonald's cheeseburgers and everything else.
Oh my God. I could have gave myself diabetes back then. I mean, for not the fact that we as hard as we worked out all the time. We worked out so hard all the time. If I would have just been eating like that. Sorry, the sun is getting him. If I would have just been eating like that without working out, I definitely would have diabetes right now. So over the years, even after I finished playing, undergrad, when I went and played arena afterwards, I completely changed my nutrition. I don't drink anything with sugar in it now, at all. If I do drink something with flavor, it's usually like Coke Zero, Diet Coke, or something like that. But it's like, I don't drink anything regular. Actually, I don't even like the taste of most things that, have regular sugar in it anyway. Like my coffee has Splenda in it, these days. That is something I have completely gone away from just because I don't want, that's especially the juices. The juices they're very unhealthy. Believe it or not. I mean, you look at the sugar content, the carbohydrate content in them, and I guarantee people who are trying to lose weight, if you cut back sugary drinks for a week, you would see yourself lose a few pounds that first week. Yep. And I don't know if you've had that experience with people, telling them to cut back on, sugary drinks, because they're not healthy. And trust me, they're not. So I avoid those at all costs.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, and again, the nutritional aspect, we can really spend about 10, 15, 20 series just focusing in on just that aspect. So I'm going to zoom us out a little bit more. You've already been alluding to some of the topics and issues related to the medical field, but I do want to ask it in this way because, of course, your perspective as a medical doctor and being in one of the most populated cities here in the United States, and then, of course, coming from where we're coming from, what's the heartbeat in the medical field right now, given with everything that's going on? Medical, pharmaceutical field, where are we right now?
Oh man, we are we're I'm not gonna say we're in uncharted waters. I'm not gonna go that far. But where we are right now, I I feel like in certain communities right now, in regards to medicine, we're at a place of a lot of mistrust, a lot of misinformation, and it can be a dangerous game when you're talking about things like that because of what happened with COVID and during the pandemic. And for those who thought that COVID was not real, we were. It doesn't matter if it was real or not. We were all affected by it. If you don't know anyone personally that has, that succumbed to the infection, then you know of someone who has, unfortunately. And I just think where we are right now, just again with the mistrust, you still have the cultural mistrust, amongst black Americans. Not to single us out, but I'm just saying I happen to be black, so I'm going to talk about us. But there still happens to be this, profound mistrust amongst medical providers and African Americans, and so be it. I mean, historically, medicine hasn't been grateful to us. With the terrible experiments, the prison experiments, the high mortality rate amongst Black females with pregnancies and stuff like that, and just not being heard when it comes to our pain control. And I have an example of that too. I was doing an ortho rotation about 2 months ago, and I went and saw the patient first. It was this guy. He had been a victim of a drive-by shooting, so he had to have multiple surgeries on his leg, and he was still dealing with the pain. And so I was talking to him, getting a little information from him, kind of find out he was from Houston. So we started talking about Texas, but he was living up there in New York now. And I was like, okay, all right, where you from? He was like, oh, I'm from Mo City. Oh, you from Mo City? I know what Mo City is. I was like, Southwest Houston. I know exactly what you're talking about. So we started, talking. And then so I go back to my, resident, and I'm telling her, hey, this is what's going on. And she's like, oh yeah, I know him. He just wants, pain, this and that. And like, this completely dismisses anything that's going on. And so we walk into the room, and I like the interaction that I had with him was completely different with the interaction that she had with him. And I was just like, man, this is weird. This is really odd, because he was talkative with me. She walks into the room, dismissive. He shuts down, and now here we are, at this issue where now his issue is not, being attended to. Now we've got to deal with this bad interaction that he's had, and I can only imagine how often that happens. So I understand why the distrust and mistrust is there amongst our people. It's because of how sometimes we are dismissed as if our complaints aren't legit, and it's really unfortunate. But again, it kind of circles back to the why. You get people who look like you get a sense of comfort, and that, hey, like I'm going to politic for you. I'm going to do everything I can to get you the best treatment. And I think that's really important.
You bring up something that's very interesting, and obviously, unfortunately, this is not the first time that we've heard stories in this nature. And one of the motivating factors that my cousin went out to New York, especially at the height of the COVID um, deaths, he said one of the reasons why I went out to New York because I realized that we would not be treated fairly. And as much as I think as a community, Black, non-Blacks who would like to just not have to have the conversation around race, it just continues to play a factor. And I want to insert this just for anybody who would be listening. A lot of my work to some degree has shifted where earlier this year I was having a lot of discussions about relationships and things like that within our community. And not necessarily just in our community, but I want to start narrowing that down because an instructor of mine brought to my attention, as I'm a very Unitarian, I'm very about connecting the collective and being a part of the whole, and I'm very much still a part of that. They said something on a video that I saw them in a few years ago about how can you go so far to be connected outwardly and you have not addressed the particulate or the kind of singleness within your own community. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because here for so long, I had trained my mind to, for one, shamefully, not to really acknowledge Black issues.
Yeah.
That, if you focus too much around this, then this is going to create more divisions or whatnot. And some of it was just sheer ignorance, because it was not really brought up in our experience. We kind of talked about this before we actually started recording, is that there were certain dynamics that just were not brought up. And so out of sight, out of mind. If you don't see it, you don't talk about it. But as certain things started to come up, I realized that, well, we're not doing any justice by not having the conversation. You're just prolonging, or you are avoiding a matter that's going to eventually explode if you just don't have the conversation. So all that to say this: when you look at health disparities across the board in any of the areas that you've named, diabetes, cancers, high blood pressure, all of it, I'm sure you can list a gamut. We seem to be the top. The African American community, or Foundation of Black Americans, seem to be at the top of the worst of each of these scenarios. And so I do want to ask you, not only what are you doing about helping to create this change? You've talked, and I think that this is important to highlight, you talked to us about, in the small actions, being able to just say good morning. I think that just being able to shift the energy and shift a person's mindset, that alone is creating a chemical change in a person, each person, no matter who you are. What are you doing with intention around helping to reconcile some of these disparities that we're experiencing within the Black community, in particular, in the medical field?
So there's a few things, I haven't done it. I was a part of this health fair, this health community fair that one of the local city council members had up in New York City. She was things like District 27 in Queens, and in Queensboro. So I went out there, and they had a fair at a school. It was great. It was wonderful. They had BP readings, how to do CPR, talked about like sickle cell awareness, and had, a bunch of different speakers out there to kind of, just talk about, different diseases as well, especially, again, hypertension, diabetes, because that's what, that affects our community. And again, it can lead to other things, like heart attack, stroke, the things that are going to cause the death. People think, oh, I just have high blood pressure. Yeah, but that high blood pressure can lead to something else. Oh, I just have asthma. Yeah, but that asthma can lead to something else. So, oh, I just smoke one cigarette a day. Yeah, but you get a cold. That cold lingers. It turns into pneumonia. Now you're in a hospital for an issue, and it's a lot of it is a slippery slope, And so I personally, I would like to be able to do, a lot more things locally, and just in the community. Again, I'm big on leadership. So the more hands I can shake, or, give people the elbow greeting.
Yeah,
I got you. The more elbow greetings that I can give, and people seeing, for our community to see people who look like me and my buddies, because as soon as I find something, I let everyone know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. You guys, more than welcome to come out, please. So we can have as much of an impact as we should be having. And again, I guess more immediate is just having the effect on our loved ones first, and then branching out from there. The bigger the platform, the more we can bring awareness and try to curtail this mistrust that we have with healthcare.
I think that's beautiful. I think it's so incredibly needed, and it sounds like that dovetails into your mentoring as well. Talk to us about that. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but just kind of talk to, how does what you just shared tie into you mentoring and providing that kind of consideration for athletes and minorities, if you will.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm trying, again, some people need more motivation than others. Some people need to see it in order to be successful. Me personally, my first Black male doctor, I did not see until I was 26 years old. And so and I was actually down in Houston working at an urgent care. Him and I, we're still buddies. I haven't reached out to him in a few years, but he has his own urgent care down there in Houston. He's a family medicine doctor, great guy. But it's, again, sometimes for certain people, representation means everything. You need to be able to see yourself and envision that. Which is probably why, for me, I'm a little bit older starting just because I didn't see that until later on. I didn't have the blueprint. Everything that I've been doing has been me making mistake after mistake, and then it's like, oh, you got a little success here. Then, oh my gosh, I'm peeling the layers back slowly, but we're getting there, and now I'm finally there, So my thing is just to let people, young people know that, hey, you can play sports, you can be great at football, you can be great at basketball, but if you've got another passion somewhere or life after, then it's okay to pursue medicine. And even if it takes a little bit longer, it's okay. There are plenty of former athletes who are in medicine. Trust me, when we go down to the basketball court when we're all supposed to be studying, trust me, it gets very competitive. It gets very competitive on their court. Yeah. So there are people out there who play ball in college and stuff like that. So you're not the only one, and it's okay to think about other things. And so I target student athletes just because I was one. For a very long time. We were again, we played ball together, so it's a lot easier to be able to form that relationship with people. My brother is a high school football coach. I've got other friends, personal friends who coaches, and so I'm trying to find a way to maybe start my own mentoring program to be able to talk to them, be able to incite some kind of motivation, and even if it's not for medicine, whatever it is that they want to become. I'm not just only for medicine, but it's all about following your destiny and becoming what you were born to be. So that's what I do.
Well, I'm gonna tell you now. I'm going to use you. I've created some kind of little small group conferences or events. I'll call them events. I call the H2O Presents F3, which before the first one we just had was last month, and we had about 11 people that came out, which was cool because I like to keep it, just like little small groups. But I do envision it to grow larger. But it was food, finances, and future. But I'm shifting the name into food, fitness, and something else related to just health. But my point of having those is to give as much of a well-rounded conversation about how do we H2O, which is my business. I don't have my logo up, but how do we heal to optimize, and what does that mean to the different areas of our lives? And so I'll be using you, man. So you make this
fine.
I'm like, hey, we need a VR, we need a virtual meeting and discussion.
Listen, I love it. I love meeting people. I love hearing people's stories. I do it all day, every day. When I'm listening, like, hey, what are you here for? What's going on? Like, why you not taking your medication?
No doubt, man. No doubt. And just, man, even just being able to have people understand their labs. I have a person of mine right now. So a lot of the population that I provide massage therapy for special needs. And so I'm a mobile therapist. So I go to different houses and provide care. And one caregiver, the guardian of one of my clients, she had some information back about her labs, and she had a mass. I can say, well, she had a mass on her liver, and so they were wondering if it was cancerous and those kind of things. And so there was a lot of back and forth going on about how to read her labs and trying to set up appointments and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, golly, I wish I knew more about that. I said, because I'm stay talking about different foods and these kind of things. but just the contact that we had in a very I guess informal setting, that my focus was primarily on this client, but I also understand within our community that we have certain challenges with just being aware of information on how to improve our health. What's kind of the first steps that we can take, not to substitute what a doctor's going to tell you, but what steps can you take to really start getting some ownership back into your own life and that power back. And so I cherish those moments of being able from week to week to talk about, just to share information and get updates. But I recognize that so much in so many communities, that's just not happening. And how many people are just going along who have just decided, oh, well, I can't get access, so I'm just going to do the best I can, just live it on a whim. And it's like, I get it. Ignorance can be bliss for the moment, but how many people is that going to have an impact on if you're no longer present, or you die prematurely, or you could, it was just one piece of information that you could have had that would have shifted something. So anyway, we can go on and on and on.
Absolutely,
just, I do want to ask about this whole COVID situation.
Absolutely.
To a degree, it feels like we're kind of transitioning out of this. And well, in my estimation of what I see, it seems that that's somewhat a truth. But I also know, just because it doesn't appear in the news and it's no longer salient to the community at large or to certain news stations, that just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean it's still not a problem. But I just want you to kind of talk to us about what that experience has been like for you, working in the medical field with COVID still being an issue, and just some of what you have done personally to navigate these times, and then also what some advice that you've been sharing with clients to navigate these times as well.
What's, and again, dealing with COVID was challenging for everyone. I think it's crazy because when the pandemic first began, I was actually in Barbados. I was in Barbados at the time, and I decided to stay down there, through the pandemic, because it didn't make any sense, because Barbados had no cases, and and everyone in the U.S. was fighting over tissue. So I was like, no, I'm staying. So I stayed until I was no longer able to. The U.S. embassy was just like, hey, this is the last flight out. You guys got to go. I'm like, all right, sure, fine, we'll leave. And then starting at hospitals during the pandemic was, everyone was unsure until we actually had access to the vaccine. We were all unsure. And then when I went to New York last year, and then Omicron came back, I was just thinking, like, everything just reopened. Omicron is about to ruin everything. But we ended up getting it under control, just because so many people did get vaccinated against COVID, and it was great. Even I had to get vaccinated. Was I a little hesitant on it? Not as much as anyone else. I was kind of whatever to it, honestly. Just because my stance on vaccines is, hey, I'm gonna go get whatever vaccines I need to get. But with COVID, I went and got it, and pretty much for the state of New York, New York City too as well, for healthcare providers, you had to have the vaccine and I think either one booster or two boosters. I cannot remember what the minimum requirements were, but I did that, and my experiences with patients, in the hospital, obviously, we've got our N95s on, we've got our goggles on, face shields, which the challenge being to be able to talk to someone with the N95 on, with the face shield on, and if they are having some kind of respiratory issue, and so you've got the machine, it's impossible to communicate, and so I think that was one. I mean, even someone who doesn't have respiratory symptoms, and you're just in there and they're just COVID without any COVID symptoms, just having the shield on and the mask, it's impossible to communicate with people because they can't hear what you're saying. They've got a mask on, so it's kind of hard to hear exactly what's going on. So there were challenges in that regard. Challenges and people who were unvaccinated. wanting the vaccination at the last minute because, you know, they pretty much were on their last breath. You know, that was challenging. It was just an absolute mess. And now that COVID isn't on the forefront of everyone's news TV, its cousin is back, flu. COVID's cousin, the flu is back, and it's running rampant. People are, you know, showing up positive flu A and B, you know, every day. Strep throat is running rampant in the community right now. So, you know, these little illnesses that were quiet while COVID was, you know, center stage and the main character, they're back. And they're like, hey, don't forget about me, because we can cause problems. We can cause problems too, you know. So it's just, we just have to all be careful. We have to, you know, continue washing our hands, covering our mouths when we cough in public, and just doing those things. I mean, I still, you know, as soon as I get into the house, I wash my hands no matter where I've been. When I'm in the hospital, I wash my hands as often as I can. In New York, I'm riding the subway. Of course, I'm going to wash my hands as soon as I get into the house, and I have the ability to do so. There's no telling what it's been on the turnstiles or the poles. I'm washing my hands immediately, you know, just because we're in a closed, you know, confinement, and you just never know what people are dealing with.
No doubt. Well, just real quick, what is your thoughts about homeopathy and some of the more natural care that can be used, and not just let's say relate to COVID, but just in general?
Yeah, I mean, I have no issue with natural remedies. You know, hey, if you want to put some lemon drop in your hot water, you want to put some ginger, whatever. I'm all about it, as long as what you're taking is not going to affect your medications that you're on. There are certain remedies, examples like St. John's wort, that will metabolize. So basically, when you take them, it will make other medications metabolize faster in your system, or it will make them metabolize slower in your system. So then if you take the natural remedy and you take your normal medication, then that drug will stay in your system longer, and you can experience the toxicity because of the buildup. You know, and so for someone who's on a blood thinner, you take a natural remedy and that blood thinner washes out too quickly, or it doesn't, then hey, either your blood's going to clot or you're going to be more susceptible, you know, to bleeding, because the levels are not going to be where they normally are. And so I think sometimes, and again, I am all about natural remedies, but I think sometimes we have to be careful with them just because of the effect they can have on other meds. And that's the only thing that I would say about that is, if you are someone who's going to take them, talk to your doctor first to make sure that medications that you're taking do not contraindicate. Otherwise, try it, see what happens. If it works, it works.
What you've done, I mean, just in that statement alone, what you've done for myself has just really reinforced the importance of combining both departments, if you will, of information, of the natural and the medical. And I think that was, to a degree, that comes from that Western versus Eastern aspect. It's how do you marry the two of those so that they're working together, not against each other.
Exactly.
And again, that's a completely different topic on its own. I know that we're moving past time, and I got to get ready here for a client here soon. But I got a little time. If you're okay.
Yeah, I've got time today. I've got to pack. That's it. I'm good.
I want to interrupt your packing time. So
no, I'm procrastinating.
Okay. Don't let me be the excuse of your procrastination. I will this time, because it's a good conversation. Let me see what I want to ask. Okay, I guess we'll just come here. What do you want most out of life right now? What do you want most out of life, and why?
Oof, most out of life, man. So many different things that I want right now, including, you know, I can kind of hit on the match cycle thing just really quickly. And so pretty much every year, you know, for us medical students, we go through the match cycle process, which basically it's like it's an algorithm where you interview for a program, you interview with the program interviews you, whatever. And then afterwards you rank that program, and then that program ranks you, and then the computer basically matches you with the program that you have ranked mutually. And so that's where you end up for residency. And so for my cycle, I'm coming up in 24. So then I'll start interviewing for residency programs next October, November, December. So that March 24 is when I'll find out where I'm going. And so right now, the immediate focus is preparing for that. And that's, taking my next licensing examination coming up in the next few months, and then getting prepared for my electives, and just basically just trying to learn as much as I can, And so, right now I'm building one link in the chain, and building it subsequently after that. And so right now it's focusing on what's going to be going on for match, and then getting ready for graduation, and hey, listen, then it's fun. I mean, no, I'm enjoying this time right now. I am enjoying this thoroughly. I enjoy every day. I enjoy every opportunity, I get to go to the hospital, just because, dude, it's New York City. Like, there's so many, it's so much going on in the city that you never know what's gonna pop in through the door. This summer I was on trauma. Unfortunately, there were a lot of gunshot victims, unfortunately, having to share, like the same skin color, and I think a lot of that, there's excitement that goes into it, but then at the same time, you reach this saturating point of excitement to where you're like, man, these young brothers are out there killing each other, and it's just like, man, this is absolutely, it's crazy, because it's not just in, South Jamaica, New York. It's also in Chicago, it's here in Dallas, it's in Houston, it's New Orleans, Miami, it's everywhere, and, we have to, I don't know what it is, but, so we have to change our culture and the way that we go about things, because it can be a little taxing, on you emotionally when you're, seeing multiple per week, so this is other things that, that we have to deal with. So also with, answering your question, focusing on my mental health to make sure that I am optimized. throw it in. I'm gonna throw it in there. Making sure that I'm optimized, making sure that I'm running on all cylinders, every single day. Because it can get to you sometimes.
Well, you brought up something that I was going to skim by just for the sake of time on the interview, but it was, how were you dealing with seeing so much death, especially during the COVID period, where there was massive amounts, at least my cousin would share with me, the bodies that were loaded into trucks and to refrigerators and things like that, that's not a natural thing for people to see that amount of death in such a short period of time. And so I know that it has to have had an impact on the brain, the body, the soul, the entire piece. And you talked about just prioritizing that mental, emotional, muscle, and fitness. And I think that that's critically important, as I've talked about when I've done lives before and things like that. What are you doing to do that? And then something I want to also come back to with the mass shootings within our community, especially with other Black men. I think I know I want to say something to that, because it's needed every time we get an opportunity to say that. But I want to ask you that question first. Just what are you doing to build your mental and emotional fitness?
Yeah, to build it, I guess the good thing is that I'm in New York City, where I can enjoy some amazing food, which makes me feel so, so good. Just, man, the food's so good up there. I can't say this enough. The food up there is so good. So I have a few spots. I have like this place of Zen that's like, it's located near Chinatown. Like, usually I go to Chinatown, get some noodles,
Nice.
get some dumplings, and then afterwards I'll just go sit in my spot. And it's a spot that's just like under a bridge, and it's just like my place where I just kind of just I literally I'm just looking at the water, and nothing's going on. I'm just staring at the water. People are walking by, and it's just like almost my place of reset. I just take everything in, just get a glimpse of nature. Maybe a bird flies by, a pigeon or whatever. But it's just, I reset there, and then I go home, and that helps me. I think it helps me better that I have a full stomach while I'm doing it. But
absolutely, absolutely.
but no, it definitely helps me. And then also going to the gym too as well. Going to the gym multiple times a week helps me because hey, if I'm going to be eating, like that, then I need to, make sure that I am, burning off the calories too as well. So let's say a combination of those things really help me kind of reset. So
beautiful. This is what I want to say with the mass or the unfortunate numbers that we have within our community where there's a lot of Black on Black crime is that one, I think that you are part of the solution in moving us closer to helping to shift that narrative and shift us out of that consciousness that when we see each other, that there's this animosity that comes up, these different territorial mentalities that come up of ignorance. But I know that us being able to just be who we are and keep being as committed to our passions, that it takes being in communities like you're describing. It takes being among children to see how them being able to just see you in your profession and see you doing what you do, to recognize the level of change that you're having just in your presence alone. So I really want to applaud you and speak on behalf of not just all of our friends and the community that we come out of the same church as well. I really want to just say that we are so super proud of you and your commitment to excellence in the medical field in particular. And then not only just being someone sitting on the sideline who's just getting, going through school and doing your thing as a student, but you are also being an activist to step out and say, I'm not just going to hoard this information and make this just about my career, but I also want to see how I can connect this to the much larger community and disseminate information and create spaces. So I want to say that you are part of the solution. I think that that's really important that you know that and that you continue with that track. And I want to say this to all of us brothers in the community that are killing each other. And this can be for anybody, but I want you to know that you have a purpose and that when you lack the vision to know that you have a purpose, it becomes much easier to damage not only yourself, but others. But I want you to know, and we want you to know that you have a purpose, not only to just to make money or to live a lavish life or live an abundant life, but you have a call, you have a purpose in your life that will actually bring a certain satiation, that will bring you a certain fulfillment in whatever the work that you're called to do. If you don't know anything else to do, you can always go serve somebody else. You can always make time available to help someone else, whether it's smiling, whether it's saying good morning, whether it's helping someone across the street, whether it's going to a school and reading to children. There's always something that can be done. And in modern day, we have access to all these various different apps that you can go live, say something positive, shoot a few people some text messages and just tell them how wonderful they are today. Start small before you go into the incredible. But I want you and we want you to know that you have a purpose here. And though things may be challenging, if you learn to convert every horrible thing in your life and you set an intention to draw out the good in all those things, to draw out and reframe how you're viewing the chaos and the violence in your life, that the very legitimate things that you've experienced, if you can make an intention to convert that to its highest good, I promise you, you will be empowered and you will move forward to do some of the greatest things that your own mind would not allow for you to see. And we believe that for you. You be encouraged with that, whoever you are, not just within our own community, although that we want to speak that power and that encouragement to our brothers who are suffering by inflicting this kind of injury on each other. But we want to say anybody can pull from this pool of goodness and this pool of prosperity and abundance, not just in the material things, but in our emotions, mentality, and in our spirit that's made available to you. It's absolutely made available. Man, I want you to have these last words. Where can people find you? And what would you like to leave us with? What's your final words you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, no, people can find. I'm only on one social media platform. I'm only on Instagram. What is it? Mark MARC_Robinson 11. That's my IG name. Yeah, that's it. Mark_Robinson 11. Yeah, but basically, my listen. It's kind of hard to follow up what you just said, because that was just so so gracefully said, man. Seriously, man. I was having this thought yesterday about when we finished playing. When you finished playing ball, just thinking about our spiritual leader on the team, which you were. It was once you finished playing, once your eligibility was up, that spiritual leader's voice was lacking.
Wow,
man! It was very evident, man. Because just listening to you pray for us before practice, at the end of practice, games, man, it was definitely missed. I just wanted you to know that, seriously. And just hearing that segment just now, man, that was nostalgia 100% right there. So that was absolutely terrific, man. So I don't really want to say much to finish this off. I mean, I just want to just echo pretty much, and agree with what you said. I mean, listen, we all have the opportunity and the option to make our own destinies. All right, I'm a huge believer in decision making, and I'm always talking to people about the decisions that they make now, decisions that they made before, and how it affects them moving forward, and how we have to be able to deal with the consequences and the ramifications of certain decisions. We have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and have that accountability, and whatever situation that we're in, and say, hey, you know what, this is my fault. I'm in this for whatever it is. Whatever the situation I'm in, it's my fault. It's my doing. It could be something positive. I'm in this situation because of the help that I had, but also I did this. And I think once we start recognizing, why we're in certain situations in life, once we start recognizing who's at fault, I think we will, potentially be, better. Instead of placing the blame on others, I think we will improve and start to see a change, culturally as well. And so that's pretty much all I have to say. So.
Beautiful, man. I'm gonna behave myself and just say thank you and not try to rip off of what you just said. Wonderful, man.
And thank you, man. It was great. Seriously,
Thank you, man. I'm going to end the recording and then just stay on for a few minutes just so I can express my gratitude even more. But ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, in the words of Martin, now you know. And if you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
Now you know. This is a great person and a great soul, and I'm going to leave it there. Have a fantastic day and a fantastic recording is ending right now.
Right now.